So I guess this is part two of our journey of the pregnancy and birth of our baby boy. Where I left off is that we had our scan to see if we were having a little boy or a little girl, and we found out we were having a little boy, and decided to name him Nathaniel. And Nathaniel's doing great now. We're home, and his due date is actually still for tomorrow. But he's now a month old, and it's been quite a journey getting here. When I was still pregnant, um, back in October, on the 19th, I was 27 weeks and so many days along, and noticed some things and called the doctor and um, let my was picking my coworker's brain to see who was on call, because the on call schedule that we have shows what OB doctor is on call too. And so I was just messaging them to find out who was on call and everything. And they told me, but they asked what was going on, and I told her what was going on, and being another previous L&D nurse, not my manager or my boss or anything, another lady there, she messaged me back and said, "Go lay down right now." And so I said, "Yes, ma'am," once I had already laid down in the bed, and she told me not to do anything, and I listened, because I loved this baby even before I got to meet him, even before I felt the first kick. I I wanted this baby for so long, and I was scared. Um, I was so fearful during all of this, and I'm still fearful at times. And it's not like me, and I normally have more faith in this, and it really has disturbed me that my lack of faith. But, or at least I thought I had faith, and it wasn't as much as I thought I had had. But anyway, so I call the doctor, and when they call me back, they tell me, just let them know if it gets worse or if or they give me all of these things to watch out for. And then just take it easy. And I asked them, I'm like, well, tomorrow, this was a Wednesday, and Thursdays are our busy day at work. And I've had a lot of cases that day, and or the next day. And do I do I need to stay home? Do I need to, or is it safe to go in? And they're like, no, if you're not worse, and or if you're doing anything uh, later, then call us and let us know. But otherwise, you're good to go to work tomorrow. So by that evening, all of the symptoms had subsided. I was still taking it easy. The next morning, still nothing. I was fine. I felt normal. Um, During the previous month or so, I had felt more pressure, but I was associating it with normal pregnancy symptoms. But since everything had subsided, and I thought I was good to go. So the next day, I did talk to the nurses, and they told me, take it easier today, and this and that and the other. And so we had a plan, and I told my coworkers that I worked directly with um, what was going on, and that I wasn't able to do what I normally did. And they all understood. I have a great work team. Um, they're just, they're phenomenal. I love them so much. They're like family to me. And I don't know what I would have done without them during all of this. But that day, I did the first case or so fine. And then I went to the bathroom, and the symptoms had come back. And so I was scared to death. I went and told my manager what was going on. She She told me all right, and I told her I was calling the office to see what to do, and totally supportive, and just telling. She said, "Let me know what they say," um, and so I called the office, and they it went to voicemail. Um, they were gonna call me back, so I told them where to call me back at and everything. And then I came back and I was sitting with my patient because there was a case in front of ours, and so I went and stayed with my patient. And where I'm located at, the OB docs come to get their uniforms, like right across from where the rooms that I work in are. And I saw one of the OB doctors, and so I stopped him and I told him what was going on. And they they told me to go to to get an appointment, but they wanted an ultrasound sooner than um, rather than later, because I think my next appointment was for November 3rd, and this was October the 20th. And so they told me, I want to get an ultrasound sooner than that, and let me know if you have any of all of these symptoms. And so I called. No, at that time, my manager came up and said, "Look, the office is on the phone for you." And so I told that doctor, I was like, "Thank you. I want to go tell them what you said right now." And they said, "Well, let them know that Dr. So and so said this." And so I went back up and I was able to tell them, this is what the doctor wants. And they're like, "I don't think that we can change that ultrasound schedule." Um, I said, "Well, Dr. So and so says that this is what they want. And it doesn't have to be today, but it does have to be sooner than what it's scheduled for. And they want to see me in the office." And so the person on the other side of the phone said, "Well, let me call you back and let me see what I can do." So I told him, I was like, "Well, if I'm in with a case, just leave a message on my phone, and I'll, you know, it's secure. Just leave the message so I know what to do." And I said, "Any day and any time is fine. Um, I just wanted to get everything done." Uh, well, on the 20th, Matt's dad had an appointment out of town, and he was going to take him. And it was like over an hour away, and definitely over an hour away from where I was. And so anyway, I called Matt and I told him what was going on, and told him that I would keep him informed and everything. And he was fine with that. During the cases, I had been sitting down. I'm sure some people thought I was being lazy. I wasn't. I was just trying to be cautious, and just trying to take care of me and baby, while taking care of my patients too. And my team was there, and they're doing awesome. And anyway, so I get a call back before my case starts, and they're like, "Well, we can see you either on such and such date, or we can see you today." I was like, "Well, I'll take the appointment for today." And so I was able to go there and get that appointment. But I called Matt and told him he was literally about to pull into his dad's driveway to pick him up, and they were about to leave town. And I told him, I was like, "This is what time it is. Do you think your dad can call and reschedule?" So he said that he would see what he could do. He wanted to be there. And so, but I told him, I was like, "Either way, I'm going to this appointment because I have to see what's going on." And he was all for it. And so he was able to come and go with me. I left work. My coworkers took up my slack for me, and I was able to go get Matt, and he drove me to the appointment. and we started out with the ultrasound, and then we were seen by the doctor that I had ran into. And after the ultrasound, I mean, we were able to see our precious baby on the ultrasound and everything. And I go in to see the doctor, and just waiting on him, and just, the ultrasound I thought was fine. And I was just like, well, I probably was just overreacting again. I'm just being fearful, and I don't need to be, and giving myself a hard time. But he came in, or the doctor came in, and I told him, hey, and they said, and they, greeted me, and they said, well, I don't have the best news for you, and my heart sank, and I was, and there goes that fear again, and they proceed to tell me that I need to go to the ER to be admitted to the L&D department. They were going to start me on some magnesium and give me a steroid shot for the baby's lungs to help them develop, and that I was already dilated and all of this. Anyway, I felt like I'd been punched. And I was like, Lord, how can this be? We've wanted this child, and you have kept him safe when I didn't even know I was pregnant. And now all of this is going on. And I'm 27 weeks pregnant, and I don't understand. And I was upset. That day, I wore a shirt that said, faith can move mountains. And I remember walking out of that doctor's office thinking, well, you wore the right shirt today, just being as sarcastic as I could. And not realizing that is exactly the shirt that I needed to wear, and that is where I needed to take my stand, was having faith in the Lord, that He, no matter what we are brought to, if we are His, He has us. And He had me and Matt, and He had Nathaniel. And so we go over to the hospital, and I couldn't go in through the ER. They're like, you have to go in through day hospital or not through day hospital, but a different area. It's kind of attached to day hospital, to be registered to go to L&D. So I was like thinking to myself, I'm not walking that far. So I sent Matt, and he got my badge, and I took us in through the door that I normally go through, and just hoping that my coworker was still there, that I work with, because I needed to talk to her. And she wasn't there, but my manager was there, and she comes up to me, and I tell her I tell her everything that I've just been told, and she stops and she prays for me, and that was the Lord too. And so we go on out, and we get registered, and I go up, and the nurses up there recognize me because they go get their uniforms across from where I work, and I've been bugging them anyway. They wouldn't call me bugging them, but I approached them about any questions that I had, because I love them and I trust them. And so they took me upstairs and got me my first shot and started an IV, and the doctor had also told me that they were going to ship me to another facility where there was a NICU, because if baby boy was born at 27 weeks, he was going to be in the NICU. And I just thought that I didn't know if he would survive or not. But even there, the nurses, one of my friends, she was telling me that, you know, it will be a hard road, but your baby will survive, and it's likely that they will survive. And so that brought hope to me and Matt. And we're messaging people and getting prayers going, and, you know, all of those important things. And so they get everything started there. I get transport comes to get me, and Matt has to go home to get some things that I sent him after. And I sent him with my phone because mine has GPS and all of that on it. And he had never been to this hospital before, and so I wanted to make sure that he got there because I needed him. And so anyway, I get to this other hospital after like a 40-minute drive or something like that, and get registered and everything, and the nurse and staff and everybody's really nice there and everything, and they're bringing comfort and as much as they can and getting their job done and all of this. And so um and I'm clinging to that hope that my baby is still, you know, if we have to deliver today, then he's gonna be okay. He's gonna make it. It's gonna be a rough road, but he'll make it. And so I'm just clinging to that. And everything is just flooding in after everybody leaves the room for a little while. And it's just me in there. And I remember telling the Lord that I'm not okay and that I'm scared and I could really use His peace and His comfort. And I know that He's there. But I could really use feeling Him at that moment. And I kid you not, I felt His peace coming in the room. And then the nurse came in and she was telling me her testimony. And she just started talking about the Lord, and that peace just kept coming and kept coming. And before I knew it, I mean, I had met all of these doctors and from NICU and from the OB and all of this, and my head is still spinning, and I've signed consents to have a C-section, and all of these things are just going through my head, and Matt gets there a little bit later, and the doctors are there, and so we get to pick their brains and ask them all of these questions, you know, about survival and all of this, and they check me and they tell me that I'm 100% effaced, I'm 4 centimeters dilated, and that when I leave this hospital, I will be leaving, or I will not be leaving pregnant. I will have already delivered my baby. And so I'm fearful. And so they take me upstairs when they get a room or get everything in order to transfer me upstairs to L&D. And I'm still got the magnesium going. Um, they start me on some, or they kept the antibiotics going, some fluids just for maintenance and everything, and they're doing all of these labs, and I'm just thinking, what in the world? MPO, because they don't know I might be having a C-section. They don't know if I'm gonna be, you know. Anyway, so Matt is wonderful. He gets up there and he's already, and, you know, we have animals at home, and he took care of them while he was here, and I can't remember if someone came that night or what. It was a whirlwind, and that wasn't the highest priority on my list. I know that my brother and sister-in-law came and got Mom because she lives with us, and she's not able to stay by herself, and so they came and got her, and just they were awesome to help. And so I didn't know, you know, I didn't know everything that was going on. I was just trying to focus on what was happening to me and baby at that point. And so they do all of these labs, and they can see too. I'm hooked up on the monitor at this point that I was having contractions and I never felt them. Probably thinking that I'm crazy for not feeling them, but they weren't intense enough for me to feel at that point. And but baby is on the monitor, and his heart rate is good, and he's not showing any signs of distress, and he just didn't like the monitor, which would continue for days. And I thought that, at that point, I didn't know. I thought it was going to be hours before I had him, not days or more than a month later. But they found out that I had gone into diabetic ketoacidosis. My sugars were fine. Um, they really were. Uh, they found it through some other labs that they had taken that I had gone into that. And so they started me on insulin as soon as they could. They had to get my blood sugar to come up more before they could start me on the insulin. And anyway, I was on that, and they were having to stick my finger every hour, I think. But I know that they were doing labs every 2 hours. I was a human pincushion, it felt like, but it wasn't anything that they could do. It was for our best interest, and so that was fine. The next day, my levels had come down, and they were able to stop the insulin, and I was able to be brought from MPO to clear liquids. And so that was good. During the MPO time and me having to get the insulin, they were giving me some fluids that had glucose in it to help raise it up. And they did an ABG, and thank goodness I only had to have one, and I had somebody good that stuck me that time. And so I was so glad that I didn't have to have any more, though, because that just kind of creeps me out, honestly. It always has. I've seen Mama get them before, but I just, no, I don't. And I don't like ABGs, and I really don't like needles, but we had to do what we had to do. And being stuck every 2 hours is hard too, honestly. But they did good. I don't. I was My veins were not cooperating at that point. Um, so the next day they're saying that I'm going to stay upstairs in L&D, and the doctors come in and they confirm everything again. There's no way that you're going to. Not only was I 100% effaced and 4 centimeters dilated, but the fluid bag that baby was in, had prolapsed down in my cervix. And so they said, it's not going to go back. It's highly unlikely. And when you see a doctor and they're saying it's highly unlikely, and I saw the look on that doctor's face, and he's like, it ain't going back. I mean, it's just not. And I thought to myself at that time, well, you just don't know Jesus the way I do. And come to find out, Matt thought the same thing when he had said that. I found out that later. But the Lord was still with us through this scary time. I mean, I had gone to work on the 20th, and thought that I would be back home that evening, and little did I know it would be weeks before I went back home. Um, but praise the Lord that, Nathaniel didn't come any sooner than what he had to. And the Lord was faithful. He had his hands on us. That next day, even though they thought that I was going to be staying there in the L&D uh, throughout the next night also, um, the different doctors come on and they're looking at everything and they're like, oh, she can go downstairs. And that was through, I believe, one of our friends who now pastors called. And of course, we had everybody praying. But he called or Matt called him. I don't remember. Anyway, they were on the phone. And he told Matt, well, before I get off the phone with you, I want to pray for you and Becky. And he did. And then, like, I went down to the antepartum room that night. I was able to go to the step. It was a step in the right direction. And so I praise the Lord for that. And the nurses that I had while I was in antepartum, I can't name them. I can't name them all anyway, but there's a few that I'm still friends with, and they were just such blessings. So let's see. So the day after, on the 21st, we had somebody that was going to come and stay with the animals. So I needed my husband. I needed him there with me. I'm an hour and a half away from home. I'm scared to death that I'm going to lose this child, or that I'm going to have to go have a C-section, and this baby boy is going to be taken to NICU, and he's going to be all by himself. And I am scared to death for me and mainly for him. He needs somebody with him, and I needed somebody with me. And anyway, it didn't work out. So I had a friend that lives 4 hours away from where I live, and she agreed to come and stay that next week. I have another friend who lives just up the road from me, and she agreed to come and stay on the weekends so that Matt could be with me. And I'm very thankful for them. Very, very thankful for them, because I needed my husband at that time. I was scared. Words can't express how scared I was. And it seemed like every time we would get a step in the right direction, that something else would come and knock us down. And after that first week, where my friend that lives so far away, after that week was gone, my niece stepped up, and she was willing to come and stay with the animals. The cat's not an issue. The dog won't eat unless somebody's here. And so, anyway, so all of that seemed to have worked out at that moment. And so Matt was staying with me, and he was coming home to take a shower and get a few things and then go back to the hospital where I was at. And come to find out, the first week was fine. Somebody stayed here all the time, but the next week the dog wasn't eating, and so come to find out, we needed to make the decision for Matt to come home. And so I was at the hospital a lot by myself, and a lot of my mind was not in a good place. I had great nurses taking care of me. They would come in and just talk and just not only take care of me, but they were uplifting. And that the day that he went home, it was the day before my birthday. And we just didn't have, I mean, we didn't have anybody else that was able to come then, and I didn't want to impose on my other friends and everything to, anyway, I just, I just didn't know what else to do, and he didn't know what else to do. So the day before my birthday, Matt goes home. So I'd already missed Mom's birthday. It was October the 26th, and there I am in the hospital, and I can't go anywhere. I did call her. I broke down when I called her, and then on my birthday, uh, the uh, the nurses and the staff there, they got me a present and got me a card and a balloon and everything, and they all signed it, and they were just, I've not liked my birthday in many years, but they made it special. They made it so special. And I had another nurse that was there, and she actually got me a present. It came a few days later, but it was this little plaque, or it's not a plaque, it was a picture, and had a place for you to write how many weeks before baby is gonna be is gonna arrive, and that was so sweet. One of my Another nurse, even before my birthday, she paints me this picture. It's got crosses on it and a beautiful sunset in the background, and it has Psalms written on the back of it, Psalms 31. And they were just so encouraging. Um, the nurse that got me the picture, she would help me stay in a good mindset. I don't know if she, I'm sure she realized it, because so often I cried a lot because I felt so alone, and didn't understand what all was going on. And I was thankful for every day that the Lord gave us where Nathaniel was in. Me and other, I had one nurse come, and they said that every one day inside of Mama is 3 days less in the NICU. And this lady was awesome. She had been a nurse for many years in L&D, and I remember before they took me off the constant monitoring, uh, the day actually that they wanted to do that, earlier in the day, she's there, and Nathaniel's heart, he's having decelerations, and she comes in, and there's several other nurses with her, and they're talking about maybe calling the team in and this and that and the other, and they get me to turn on my side, and I'm scared to death because this lady, when they have a certain look that something is going wrong, and they're going to take care of it, but at that moment you're scared. You don't know how it's going to end. And so anyway, they get me turned on my side, and um, all of this stuff, and she just looks. I'm looking at her because I'm looking for any change in any emotion that she has. I'm reading her, and she looks down at me, and she winks. And when she does that, I know that everything's fine. And at that point, they decided not to call the team in, and just to give the doctors an update. Um, and they came in and increased my fluids and kept us on the monitor. Um, Obviously, that day, I didn't even know that they were going to plan on taking me off of it that night. And then that night comes around after all of that, and they're like, well, we're going to take you off the monitor now. And it's like another nurse at this point, and maybe she didn't know what all had occurred that day, or maybe they didn't think anything about it, but I had thought something about it. And tell her, I'm like, I'm not okay with you doing that. And I told her everything that happened. And she said, well, I'll let the doctor know. And so she comes back in and says, well, they've agreed to keep you on there another hour. I'm like, no, I'm not okay with that. And I told her, I said, will the doctor not come in and talk to me? And so she goes and calls the doctor, the team again, I guess. I don't know if it was a specific doctor or if it was a team of doctors. I don't know. But they said that they would be in as soon as they could to talk with me. And so it's hours later. And this is when Matt is still staying at the hospital consistently with me. And she comes, the doctor comes in later and says, and hears me out and says, okay, well, we'll keep you on there 8 more hours or this many more hours. I can't remember. I think it was 8. And good thing that she did, because that night they come in because he started having more decelerations and he started me on some fluids. Apparently, maybe I wasn't drinking enough. Apparently, I wasn't, because they started me on fluids the first time that he did all of that. Then that night, apparently, he was having some more deceleration, so they gave me a bolus of fluids, a 500 bolus of fluids. And then I wake up the next morning and I'm thinking, well, they're supposed to have already taken me off the monitor. And I was just thankful that I could still hear his heartbeat. And I mean, it brought me comfort knowing that he was okay and all of this. And so, a while later, they come in and they're bringing another bolus and of fluids because he had another deceleration. And so, anyway, they wanted me to stay on the monitor or him to stay on the monitor so long after those to make sure that he was okay and everything. So we did come off the monitor that day, but it was much later. And then I was instructed that I needed to drink a lot more. And so I started to do that and started to eat snacks and things like that. Um, and so from then on out, they monitored me every shift or put him on the monitor every shift. And so things started to progress, and days turned into over a week to 2 weeks. So I got there on the 20th, and then on November 1st, Matt had to go home. And on my birthday, I got so many awesome. My friends at work sent me stuff. I had friends at church that sent me stuff. And all of this, it's just the way everybody showered us with prayer and with blessing us financially and blessing us with the presence and with just encouragement and the words of kindness and just everything. It was mind blowing. Honestly, I didn't know. I mean, I knew people cared. I didn't know to the extent that they cared. um, it's amazing how everything worked out. So it was about a week before I went home. I had a doctor come in and they kind of blew my mind because they said, well, I'm okay with you going home. And I'm thinking, no, I thought that this doctor had gone crazy, because every other doctor and everybody else had said, no, you are going to be here until you have this baby. And this is the first time I meet this doctor, and they're like, well, you're going to go home. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not ready to go home. I would have been, and I told them, I was like, no, every doctor has said that I'm going to be here until um, this baby is born. And they're like, well, we can only keep you so long, and this and that and the other. And I told them how far away I lived, and I'm not comfortable with all of this. And so, anyway, this doctor did not do any teaching. They just told me what they thought, that they said that that I was able to go home. No further teaching after that. Please teach people. I mean, really, give your rationale. He didn't, and or yeah, he didn't, and I was upset. I didn't understand, and I thought that he had gone crazy, honestly, because everybody else said that I was going to be there until the baby was born, and so he's the only one talking otherwise. Well, the next week, a different doctor comes in, and a couple of different times, and talks about me being able to, probably being able to go home or going to the Ronald McDonald House or something like that. And started, but this doctor talked to me and gave me the rationale behind it, um, and I was more okay with it. And what all would needed to be done if I was able to go home, they would check me again, and this and that and the other, and made me a lot more comfortable with making that decision, whether or not to go home, because I mean, we had come a pretty long way, and I didn't want to do anything that would jeopardize the health of my child. So anyway, on November the 11th, I had weekly ultrasounds while I was there, and baby boy continued to grow and everything. Um, and so he was, he looked good on the ultrasound. They came in and they were like, well, he looks good. As long as you look good, like nothing's changed, going in the wrong direction, because they wouldn't check me while I was there. They were afraid it would progress things along. Um, they said that they were comfortable with me going home. And so uh, they came in later and checked me, and I was only 50% effaced now, and the bag was not prolapsed anymore. And of course, I was still 4 centimeters. That wasn't changing. Uh, but they were comfortable with me either going to the Ronald McDonald House or going home. I chose to go home because at the Ronald McDonald House, I would be up and doing a whole lot more on my own, and I just felt safer coming home because I knew how good Matt is, and he had been taking care of me at the hospital too. Not that the nurses weren't, they were, but when he was there, he did it, and just because he's a blessing. Um, so we came home on November the 11th, and I was able to spend Thanksgiving at home. I did not go anywhere. I went to bed and I went to our couch and I went to the bathroom. Um, I did shower and things like that, and but I took very quick showers, and I didn't get up any more than what I had to because this baby was staying in. Um, and so I did have to go to my appointments and everything. Even on the way to the appointments, I laid back in the car, um, trying to prevent any pressure at all from building up. And I mean, because the office that I was going to was an hour and a half away, so um, I was just doing everything that I knew to do drinking plenty of fluid, still watching my sugar, um, all of this. On the doctor's appointments, and they looked good. Every appointment I had up until the last one, everything looked great. Blood pressure was good. My sugars have been doing well. Hadn't had any signs of going into labor. Um, so it was doing good. Um, so I was blessed to be home. I really was, and to spend some time with Matt and see my animals again, and being you think about you don't think about when you're stuck at a hospital and just those even the sense of being home. I remember when Matt brought me my own pajamas. I could smell home on them, and washing my hair when I was at the hospital, and and having my soap for the first time instead of the hospital soap. Um, it it was just it. It sounds weird, but it was so refreshing because I had some sense of being home, or being within my norm, and it meant it. It might make me sound crazy, but it meant a lot, and helped me out mentally when I was there. But anyway, so I guess I'll stop this video here because we're almost an hour in. We're at 45 minutes, and I'll start up at the next appointment, and we'll go from there. But I thank the Lord that I was able to spend Thanksgiving at home. It was just me and Matt here, and we were trying to avoid other people too, just in case whatever happened. Uh, just just taking it easy and being home. So anyway, I'll see y'all in the next video.